Okay, I'm back and we are going to continue working on our still life painting. And you can see that I have my photo here. I took a screenshot, like I showed you before, right off the PowerPoint so that I had the picture as a separate thing. What I want to do now is I want to be able to see this photo in black and white. And so I have a couple of choices. I could take a photo of the photo with my phone and look at it in black and white there. I kind of want it to be visible to me all the time and kind of on my Chromebook screen. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to open my launcher and move this up. And I have Google Photos on here. And so I'm going to click Google Photos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a photograph. So up here at the top, you can see it says upload. So I'm going to click upload. I'm going to click my computer. And my screenshot is right here in my downloads file. So my files, there's the screenshot. And I'm going to just double click this. And what happens is that my photograph then opens in Google Photos. What I get to do now is when I click on this photo, I'm going to be able to edit the photo so that I can have it be in black and white. So I am looking for a version, probably the best one is this Eiffel, that is black and white. And so I'm just actually going to leave this photograph up now in black and white, and I'm going to paint my shadows in black and white on my screen. So that photograph is sitting right there, and I have my pears, my beginning of my still life painting right here. And I'm going to now just start working with the shadows that I see in my objects. So I'm actually going to continue using the exact same color that I used in the background. And I'm going to start with some of my darker darks. And I'm going to just push those in around the pears first. If we remember back to making the shapes, shading the shapes, my next step, so I have like this line, but I need the shadow shape that's there. I'm going to clean my paintbrush out and I'm squeezing it dry with my paper towel. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring this out. It's a lot like I'm shading with a pencil. It is always what it reminds me of. And as I find that I need it to get lighter again, I'm cleaning my paintbrush out one more time. And I'm just pulling this shadow color out and into the background of my image. So the shadow shapes come down further. And there is one that comes behind back here. And I'm actually going to just really lightly pull some of this other like gray out. There's a wrinkle that's over here that's a little darker again, and it goes underneath. So I only know that because I'm looking right at my image. It's like I said, it's right here in front of me the entire time I'm painting, so that I always know where I should be changing the photo. So each time I want this to lighten up or to pull out, I'm cleaning my paintbrush off again. And I am pushing that paint around. So especially because I want this to be very light, this like napkin or whatever is white underneath here. So I'm going to have to let these dry, but I'm also going to paint a little bit on this other pear on the other side. So I'm going to stop painting my paper towel here, or my napkin, or whatever this is. And I'm going to work on the shadows on the surface of the pear. So you can see if your background is not as complicated as mine, which it won't be. I have taken this image out of the PowerPoint. I am going to just simply shade on my pear. So I can see my pear, this particular pear here, has a really dark shadow on this side where it touches the other pear, and that pulls down into the bottom. There's also a fairly deep shadow here that curves, and I'm able to see that because of course I am looking at my black and white photograph. And so I am working to make my image match that as much as possible. So I've now cleaned my paintbrush out and squeezed it dry, and I am softening this shadow. I'm pulling this paint this direction. This is called underpainting. And what this allows me to do is just work with the shadows that are on my objects so that when I move into the colors, it is easier for me to achieve a three-dimensional effect. So I am not going to move on from working with shadows until I'm reasonably happy that my objects, which are pears, look fairly close to my black and white photograph. So remember, I'm looking at this black and white photograph while I work. That needed to be a little darker. There's also a shadow back here. I'm not worried about like little detail stuff yet, so I know that the stem is darker and will be like a shadow kind of color, but not super worried about that right now. Just mostly still worried about trying to get the structure of the pear itself fairly accurate. When I'm not moving paint anymore, I'm squeezing my paintbrush dry. Need to deepen this lower section of the shadow. And some of these shadows will need to be, like I have this really hard line here that isn't in my photo. So I've just squeezed my paintbrush dry, cleaned it off again, and I've just kind of softened that. There is this lighter section here, so I want to keep that sensation of lighter. That's going to help me make kind of that highlight zone that's here on the pear. To mix up more of my gray. Oops. Wrong color blue. So you can see, like I'm just deepening some of these. My stem is really quite dark. It has some details though that I'm going to try to like leave room for. I don't want to get too worried about the stem either, because the stem is like I said, super kind of detail-y, and I'm still going to have to paint the pear a color, and I don't want to have the dark from the stem like leak into the pear itself. So I'm just going to leave that. I have these darker bumps that I put in now. I'm squeezing my paintbrush dry, and I'm going to kind of smooth those out and into the pear itself. This one's got to go down. So I really encourage you to change your photo into a black and white so that you can see these shadows. And this is the first phase of working with a still life. You do need to paint your shadows first and perfect those shadows before we get to the phase of adding color.